Oh, hello, great readers. I'm Belchan.
I'm Nimikung.
I'm Banchan.
In this class, I'll read to all of you. Tava. 23 Fire Rises, Sec 2 of A Tale of Two Cities, Book the Second Golden Thread.
As.
Ah.
A Tale of Two Cities, Book the Second Golden Thread. Charles Dickens. Tava. 23 Fire Rises, Sec 2. And was soon at the fountain, squeezing himself in among the lean kine brought there to drink, and a-praying even to whisper to them in his whispering to all the village. When the village had taken its supper, it did not creep to bed, as it usually did, but came out of doors again, and remained there. A curious contagion of whispering was upon it, and also, when it gathered together at the fountain in the dark, other curious contagion of looking expectantly at the sky in one direction only. Monsieur Gable, chief functionary of the place, became uneasy, went out on his housetop alone, and looked in that direction too, glanced down from behind his chimneys at the darkening faces by the fountain below, and sent word to the sacristan who kept the keys of the church, that they might be need to ring the tocsin by and by. The night deepened. The trees environing the old chateau, keeping its solitary state apart, moved in a rising wind, as though they threatened the pile of bulging massive and dark in the gloom. Up the two terrace flights of steps the rain ran wildly, and beat at the great door, like a swift messenger rousing those within. Uneasy rushes of wind went through the hall, among the old spears and knives, and passed lamenting up the stairs, and shook the curtains of the bed where the last Marquis had slept. East, west, north, and south, through the woods, for heavy treading. Unkempt figures crushed the high grass and cracked the branches, striding uncautiously to come together in the courtyard. 4 lights broke out there, and moved away in different directions, and all was black again. But not for long. Presently, the chateau began to make itself strangely visible by some light of its own, as though it were growing luminous, and a flickering streak played behind the architecture of the front, picking out transparent places, and showing where Bow Street is, arches, and windows were. Then it soared higher, and grew broader and brighter. Soon, from a score of the great windows, flames burst forth, and the stone faces awakened, stared out of fire. A faint murmur arose about the house from the few people who were left there, and there was the saddling of a horse and riding away. There was spurring and splashing through the darkness, and bridle was drawn in the space by the village fountain, and the horse in a foam stood at Monsieur Gable's door. Howlet. Gable. Howlet. Every one. The tocsin rang impatiently, but other help, if that were any, there was none. The mender of roads, and 250 particular friends, stood with folded arms at the fountain, looking at the pillar of fire in the sky. It must be 40 feet high, said they. grimly, and never moved. The rider from the chateau, and the horse in a foam, clattered away through the village, and galloped up the stony steep to the prison on the crag. At the gate, a group of officers were looking at the fire. Removed from them, a group of soldiers. Aloud. Gentlemen officers, the chateau is on fire. Valuable objects may be saved from the flames by timely aid. Aloud. Help. The officers looked towards the soldiers who looked at the fire, gave no orders, and then soothed, with shrugs and biting of lips, as the rider rattled down the hill again and through the street. The village was illuminating. The mender of roads, and the 250 particular friends, inspired as one man and woman by the idea of lighting up, had darted into their houses and were putting candles in every little pane of glass. The general scarcity of everything occasioned candles to be borrowed in a rather peremptory manner of Monsieur Gabel, and in a moment of reluctance and hesitation on that functionary's part, the mender of roads, once so submissive to authority, had remarked that carriages were good to make bonfires with, and that post horses would roast. The chateau was left to itself to flame and burn, in the roaring and raging of the conflagration. A red-hot wind, driving straight from the infernal regions, seemed to be blowing the edifice away. With the rising and filling of the blaze, the stone faces showed as if they were in torment. When great masses of stone and timber fell, the face with the two dints in the nose became obscured, and struggled out of the smoke again, as if it were the face of the cruel Marquis, burning at the stake and contending with the fire. The chateau burned. The nearest trees, laid hold of by the fire, scorched and shriveled. Trees at a distance, fired by the four fierce figures, begirt the blazing edifice with a new burst of smoke. Molten lead and iron boiled in the marble basin of the fountain. The water ran dry. The extinguisher tops of the towers vanished like ice before the heat, and trickled down into four rugged walls of flame. Great rents and splits branched out in the solid walls, by crystallization. Stupefied birds wheeled about and dropped into the furnace. Four fierce figures trudged away. East, west, north, and south, all on the night uncharted roads, guided by the beacon they had lighted, towards their next destination. The illuminated village had seized hold of the Dachshund, and then, abolishing the lawful ringer, on forgery. Not only that, but the village, light-headed with famine, fell, and bow ringing. Taxes show it was but a small installment of taxes, and no rent at all. That Gabel had got in those latter days became impatient for an interview with him, and then, surrounding his house, summoned him to come for personal conference. Whereupon, Monsieur Gabel did heavily bar his door, and retired to hold counsel with himself. The result of that conference was that Gabel again withdrew himself to his house that hid behind his stack of chimneys, this time resolved if his door were broken and he was a small southern man of relative temperament, to pitch himself head foremost over the parapet and crush a man or two below. Probably Mr. Gibble passed a long night up there, with the distant chateau for fire and candle, and the beating at his door, combined with the joy ringing for Isaac 8, which the village showed a lively inclination to displace in his favour. A trying suspense. To be passing a whole summer night on the brink of the Black Ocean, ready to take that plunge into it upon which Mr. Gable had resolved. But the friendly dawn appearing at last, and the rush candles of the village guttering out, the people happily dispersed, and Mr. Gable came down bringing his life with him for that while. Within 100 miles, and in the light of other fires, there were other functionaries less fortunate, that night and other nights, whom the rising sun found hanging across once peaceful streets, where they had been born and bred. Also, fellows, upon whom the functionaries and soldier returned with success, and whom they strung up in their turn. But the fierce figures were steadily wending east, west, north, and south, be that as it would, and whosoever hung, fire burned. The altitude of the gallows that would turn to water and quench it. No functionary, by any stretch of mathematics. To be continued.